Hi, romance readers. I am Liz Donatelli. Welcome to a special episode of Reader Seeks Romance, the #1 romance novel talk show on YouTube. In support of the premiere launch of HEA Reader Event in Indianapolis this November 2023, I am chatting with attending romance authors PHOEBE Alexander, Victoria Ellis, Alexandra Hale, and BREANNA LYNN. We will discuss their work and we will play Would You Rather Romance Reader Edition. Enjoy and be sure to like and subscribe. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance Authors.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
It is a pleasure. So you're all appearing at HEA Reader Event in Indianapolis this November. I previously chatted with HEA Reader Event co-founder Emily Silver. Here's a clip from our conversation. Emily, you are the founder of HEA Reader Event that launches this fall in Indianapolis. How is it different from other events that connect romance authors and readers?
We think it's different. My co-host Tina Snyder and I, we have gone to about 6 or 7 signings together, and we've kind of taken little bits and pieces of everything that we like and dislike about them and decided to throw one big shebang in Indianapolis where people come to us for once instead of us traveling to them. So we decided to host our own event this fall.
It's interesting you said that you've attended lots of events and there are things that you don't particularly care for and things that you do like. So which things do you not care for in a typical event that you're changing in HEA Reader Event?
Depending on what ticket level you get, you don't always get like swag bag kind of things. We're making it so everyone gets a swag bag. And I know it seems like a small thing, but as someone who loves going to signings and getting swag, I'm a swag fiend. So I want to make sure every reader who comes gets a swag bag and can take stuff home from all of the authors, whether it's a little bookmark or a koozie. We want everyone to have something from the event.
What were some of the things that you liked about events that you decided to include in HEA?
Our favorite thing is the cocktail hour the night before. I mean, you can never go wrong drinking and hanging with your favorite authors, so we're definitely doing that. Tickets are for sale on Eventbrite, and the cocktail hour is on Friday night, November 3rd, and it's $15. You get 2 free drink tickets, and that's from 7 to 9, so you don't have to worry about rushing. You can come in the afternoon. You don't have to rush in to get there. The signing is Saturday, so for $50, it's the VIP hour, so you get an upgraded swag bag, and that's from 11 to 5, and then general admission is $35, and you get just a regular tote bag. You still get swag, and that's from noon to 5. Awesome. And that's on Saturday the 4th.
What excites you most about participating in HEA Reader Event? And have you ever done any other in-person events?
Always. The #1 thing is just being able to interact with the readers, right? And being able to meet them in person and take the photos and sign the books and hear their favorite quotes and all of that. But my second favorite thing is that it's only like 2 hours away from me. And that's amazing. Because so this kind of leads into your next question, but I've been to, I think, maybe like 5 or 6 other in-person signings. Okay. The last one I did was in Dallas, Texas. And then, next year I've got Florida and North Carolina and Colorado. So they're all very far. I'm in Chicago, so just to kind of give it a reference. So it's so nice and close to me, and I'll be able to hug everybody, and it'll be so nice.
BREANNA, what are you looking forward to at HEA Event?
For me, obviously I'm looking forward to interacting with some readers who've already told me that they've purchased tickets to come see me, which still floors me that I have people who are like, hey, I bought a ticket because you're there. And so that's kind of one of those like, oh, that's never going to happen things. And then when it happens. And then secondly, I've got some really good author friends that I haven't seen in over a year, and they're all attending. So I'm really excited to connect with them and see them again.
Awesome. And have you attended any other in-person events?
I have. So I ended up doing Readers Take Denver this year, their inaugural signing this year. So, and then I've done a few as a reader, but it's a way different experience as an author.
I've attended a number of author events as a reader. It's so exhausting for the author to be on all day and to meet people with enthusiasm all day long. So I would feel for them. It's like, I'm sure they're loving it, but boy, I bet they're just mentally and physically exhausted. Phoebe, what are you looking forward to?
I don't live close to Indianapolis, but Indianapolis is my hometown. So I live in Delaware, which is about 12 hours away, 12 hours drive. But my family lives in Greencastle, Indiana, which is only about 45 minutes away, probably more like an hour away from the north side where the event's being held. But I always am looking for reasons to go home and visit. So when I saw that there was going to be an event in Indianapolis, of course, I wanted to be there. So I'm really excited about that, about seeing my family, seeing a lot of local friends that are going to come to the signing. And there's a lot of authors that are on the roster that I haven't met in person yet, but I've been wanting to meet. So I'm excited about that as well. Not being able to attend signings was literally the worst part of the pandemic for me because I work from home. I don't get to see anybody but my husband and sons for the most part. And like, I like to be around other people from time to time, you know?
Sure.
But I've attended lots of events. I've been published for 10 years. I think I've been attending events since maybe 2016. I also host events. I'm hosting an event in Cleveland next weekend, actually. So I've seen events from pretty much every angle, but I'm really looking forward to this one.
Alexandra, what are you looking forward to?
Everything that everybody said. I am also not local. I'm in upstate New York. So I will be flying in. I have a friend who is going to be shipping my books to so that she can drive those in for me. Nice. So hopefully the only thing I'll have to take on the plane with me is my banner, which is an absolute hassle because the handles aren't big enough. So I'm gonna have to kind of MacGyver that to do that. But I'm just so excited. This will be the biggest signing that I have this year. I just had my 1-year publishing anniversary. Nice. So I have a small group of people who I've, sought out and say, hey, I'm gonna be close to your area, you want to make the trip? And so I'm really, really looking forward to seeing, reader friends and author friends. It's gonna be a really fun time.
Awesome. Congratulations. And which other cities have you participated in events?
My very first signing was in New Orleans. We had a group go down to do the Bella Nola one, which was absolutely fabulous. It was a pretty small event, but the city was amazing. The readers were amazing. All the authors there were. It was just such a fun time. The weather was great, thankfully. And I have one Romanticon in Connecticut that Kitty Berry runs. And then the last one is Books in Pennsylvania.
So all of you are pros, at working these events. So that's cool. I look forward to seeing all of you. So Phoebe, you write sex positive, body positive, erotic romance featuring compelling plots intertwined with passionate, fiery encounters. Your relatable characters have even steamier sex lives than billionaires and rock stars. You advocate for ethical non-monogamy in your writing. What defines ethical non-monogamy and how is it represented in your work?
Ethical non-monogamy just means that you're in relationships with more than one person and that everybody knows about it. That's simply it, that everybody's on the same page, everybody's in agreement. There's lots of different kinds of ethical non-monogamous relationships. There's swinging, there's polyamory, there's open relationships, and there's all kinds of configurations within those kind of broader categories. And my books sort of have a hodgepodge of everything. I have polyamory, I've got a lot of swinging, I have some open relationships, I have a book about a hot wife. I've got about 30 books out under my Phoebe pen name. So, and I always tell readers, like, everything in my books I've done. So I can say that it is realistic because I've done it.
That's quite a statement to
and
make.
I'm not even going to list what those things are. If you want to know, then you have to read the books, obviously.
I mean, the minute you say that, readers, I mean, I guess that doesn't phase you to have readers thinking of you doing these things because you said,
I mean,
oh,
they
I've
might
done
not like it. They, as a matter of fact, my sister-in-law once told me, she's like, I can't read your Phoebe books. I can read the other. I also write under another pen name that's like very clean and closed door kind of stuff.
Got
My
it.
sister-in-law told me, she's like, I can read those books, but I can't read your Phoebe books because I just can't. She's like, I don't want to think about you like that. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't want you to read them. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I could understand that. Victoria, you are a multi-genre author who writes psychological thrillers, romantic suspense, dark romance, and contemporary romance, some of which feature rock stars. Based on your author brand, romance that stings and thrillers with grit, what can romance readers expect from your novels?
I want to write romance, but I started off writing horror, and then moved into psychological thrillers, and then moved into romantic suspense. So it's kind of been like a little ladder, really, to get to the romance. And I think that the whole romance that stings is like, it'll never be like that sweet, clean, like perfect love story. There's always going to be a lot of heaviness, even in even in my contemporary romance with the Rockstars. I've got a lot of trigger warnings in that. So there's always going to be something that makes it sting, is what I say. It's never going to be like this like wholesome love story, no matter if it's contemporary or dark or what it is, whatever it is that I'm writing that week.
Gotcha. So it's a sting, a good sting. It feels good.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Alexandra, you write steamy, small town romance with a dash of lighthearted fun and happily ever afters that make readers swoon. So, small town romances historically are thought to be chaste, and they usually are either closed door or just, maybe a few kisses here and there. But recently they've become sexy, even steamy. How steamy are your small town romances?
They kind of vary. At least 2 to 3 on-page scenes. Everything's on page.
Mm-hmm.
The first book was my debut, and that is probably the least steamy out of the series. Okay. But I think that the steam is directly related to the characters. So the second book is a grumpy sunshine. Mm-hmm. He's an ex-con, wrongfully imprisoned, and he is very intense, and his heroine is also very intense. So their chemistry together is way different than the first book, which is best friends to lovers, and on the sweeter side, always been together, missed opportunities, sort of a thing.
Okay. And steamy for you, does that include dirty talk?
If the occasion calls for it. I think that's I try really hard to balance my stories, and if it doesn't fit, I don't want to put it in there because I don't want it ever to feel forced. Okay. I feel like that's a big thing too. There's a lot of trends and different things, and I don't want to just jump on any of that just because. So I do try to keep it authentic to the story.
So you live in upstate New York in a small town environment. So how much of your lived experiences inform your small town romance writing?
A lot of it. Small town is small town anywhere. I chose to put my fictional town in Tennessee because I think when people automatically think small town, they think the southernness, they think hospitality and everything else, which is a different vibe than you get up here. So yes, we are small town, but the upper states are not necessarily as nice as the southern states. For that, I grew up in a town where we have a 4-way blinking light. There was the general store. I walked from my house to get 50-cent ice creams, growing up and everything else. I always felt very safe down there. And there's the elderly gentleman who lived a couple houses down, who my mom used to make strawberry rhubarb pie for, and it was just like very small town. But when you think small town, again, you're just not thinking upstate New York, because it's just not the feel good vibe that you get.
Brianna. You write romance journeys full of love, laughter, and happily ever afters, featuring swoony heroes and the resilient heroines who bring them to their knees. You primarily write rock star main characters, correct? I believe both male and female.
Yeah.
What appeals most to you about writing rock star romance protagonists? Brianna. You write romance journeys full of love, laughter, and happily ever afters, featuring swoony heroes and the resilient heroines who bring them to their knees. You primarily write rock star main characters, correct? I believe both male and female.
Yeah.
What appeals most to you about writing rock star romance protagonists?
So there's just something about a rock star. They've always been my kryptonite as a reader. And then you have this whole music element that has always played really importantly in my life. I tend to gravitate to music and I listen to a lot of it. Every genre, every style. There's usually at least one song that I can listen to or enjoy out of each one. And so each of these characters has that same connection with music. And I've just always liked that connection and being able to write characters who have that and can bring that into their story.
Do you play any instruments, or did you ever date someone who is a rock star?
So I can mess around on a piano if I happen to see it, but I don't know anything formally. It's like the standard, chopsticks or, the stuff that you learn as a kid.
Yeah.
Never dated a rock star. My former husband could play piano really well. In fact, one of the first times he and I met, he played Richard Marx's Right Here Waiting on the keyboard. So love that song.
Wherever you go, whatever you do, I will be right here waiting for you.
But a lot of it too is just, I remember being 13, 14 years old and I'd hear a song or I'd watch a movie or read a book and I'd immediately start thinking about songs that would connect to that.
When you meet readers, and you'll be meeting plenty of them at HEA Reader Event in November, which book or series of yours do you usually suggest they read first?
I only have one series, so it is very easy to start with just that one. They're interconnected standalones, so you can technically read them out of order. I like to ask readers what their preference is. I am very guilty of starting with a trope that I like in a series if I can jump around. So I'm automatically drawn to Grumpy Sunshine. So that's the one that I will always push out of my books. It's the second book in the series. Mm-hmm. And I think that it can stand very well on its own. And then you can go back to the sweeter one if you'd like, or you can continue on. But I like to jump around, so I like to give readers the option to do that too.
Interesting that you said trope. Romance now is very trope driven. Like when I was going to, to events and such years ago, I feel like tropes, they were kind of a thing, but not something we consciously sought after or looked for necessarily. We were kind of familiar, but now everything's very, very trope driven. I've gotten that answer before, that an author likes to begin with, well, what tropes do you like? And then takes it from there. Brianna, you're back up.
So I'm the same as Alexandra. I only have one series out right now. So, and I'll ask that same question, hey, what kind of trope do you like? If they tell me, well, tell me what your favorite is, I'm always going to say it's actually the last book in the series. So it's the most recent release. It's Falling for the Beat. But they are interconnected standalones, so you can read them and be okay without reading the previous ones. But if you're going to start at the very beginning, then I suggest reading book one, which is Written in the Beat.
Now, each of your books have beat in the title.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, how difficult did it become to title your books?
It was definitely difficult. So I had my author friends online going, okay, help me. I ran out of beat titles after, basically book one, and I needed help. And so they started playing around. Actually, my one author friend's husband came up with the title of book two, which is the beat of the moment. And he just fired that one off, and she looked at him and she goes, how come you can't title my books? Oh, I got him in trouble a little bit for that. But otherwise, it did take a little bit of time, and I had to switch some titles around and finally landed on all 5. And I don't want to do that again. It was fun, but I don't want to do that again.
Phoebe.
Well, I actually have 5 series, I think, if I'm counting correctly.
Yeah.
So I have to do a little investigative work and find out what readers enjoy, whether they like kind of more serious books or more romantic comedy, because I have both under this pen name. So usually I'll tell them to start with my Spicetopia series, which is about an adult theme park. So think of like Disney World, but for adults. And it's like anything goes. It's really fun. And it's in the Bahamas, and I would really like to go to there, But that's usually where I tell them to start. Or if they're looking for something that doesn't have the ethical non-monogamy, I do have one series that's just straight vanilla MF series, just one man, one woman. And it's a new adult series. It's called The Alphabet Guys. And so that's another one that I'll recommend if they're not quite sure they're ready for my super steamy stuff. And it's funny. It's a romantic comedy series. And if they want something that's, if they like sagas and really, get in depth with the characters, I have a huge series called the Mountain series, and it's military romance. And the first 3 books are all connected. You have to read them in order. Anyway, so yeah, I have a lot of different options when it comes, but usually I would recommend starting with the first book in the series.
The adult theme park has captured my imagination. The spice level you're speaking of, we're talking like BDSM stuff, correct? Yeah.
There is some BDSM. There's lots of group sex in my
that's what we're talking about.
So right, because a lot of it's has to do with swinging. A lot of my characters are swingers.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
We have orgies, we have lots of threesomes, we have couple swapping, we have
you got a
all
good
of that
blending.
stuff. So
well.
Yes.
That actually, you
never know what you're going to see, because it could be anything.
So does something like that exist in the real world, like an amusement park?
Well, not Spicetopia. There's not anything like Spicetopia, but there's plenty of swingers clubs, which I've been to. And I also have a whole series that's about a swingers club. The Eastern Shore Swingers series takes place in Ocean City, Maryland, which is close to where I live.
Okay.
And there is not a swingers club in Ocean City, Maryland, but there is a club that is almost a swingers club because so many swingers meet up there. Ask me how I know. But anyway, there's plenty. There are lots of swingers clubs all over the place. So that part is very realistic.
Fascinating.
I just don't have a flying dildo coaster there. That's all.
What was it? Oh, yours does. Yours does. I was going to ask.
At Spicetopia, they have the flying dildo coaster. That is one of their attractions. If you check out one of the books, there's a map inside. So you can see like
when you go to Disney and there's
so you can see all the different attractions.
I would pay just to read the map. If do you just have the map as just available to just
I could send it. I don't have it I have it on postcards that I give out at signings. So
that is a smart idea. Does anyone else have maps in their novels? No. Actually, small town Alexandra, you could do some maps.
I will have a map and a family chart very soon. I wanted to wait until I was a little bit farther into the series, just to make sure that everything was where I think it should go, especially on the map. But I leave that to somebody else because I don't have any artistic talent when it comes to visualizing something on a page like that.
Victoria, you're up.
So when I am at a book signing, typically, since I am a multi-genre author, I'm like, okay, do we want horror, romantic suspense, psychological thriller, contemporary romance? Now I'll be adding the dark romance to it. It seems like a lot of the readers that I've met have wanted contemporary romance. So I typically steer them to the Rockstar series. And I think technically they could be read as standalones, but I always tell everybody to go in order just for the best reader experience.
Now, being you have done Rockstars, what appeals to you when you were writing the Rockstar romances?
All of my books are just all in my head. I mean, especially like the serial killer ones. I'm not a serial killer. I don't do those kind of things. So it's definitely in my head.
Mhm.
But in the rock stars, sadly too, I never dated a rock star. I was in a band once upon a time.
Oh, what did you
Yeah,
do in the band?
a drummer.
Drummer.
Yeah. So I mean that's pretty much the closest extent that I got from, to being part of my books. Everything else is made up.
What's the best compliment that you've ever received from a reader?
When I first decided to publish, I was about to have surgery, and it was one of those things where I pushed the book out and I wanted to have it done and ready to go. And I was happy about it, but it was a very difficult time anyway, as I was trying to, prepare for this. And a reader contacted me and said that my book had gotten her through a dark time. And I had been asked previously, what's your definition of success? Do you want to make a chart? Do you want to, pages read, or, all these different things? And that stopped me. And that is the one thing that continues to be my goal as an author, is to give somebody an escape. I choose to have a lighter series, lighter writing. And I think that it's so different. People, they connect with different characters. The last book I released is very light, and so many people connected with the heroine. And I was so surprised. It's like, I feel that. And to me, there's no better feeling than that.
Would you say that in readers receiving your protagonist so well, that in a way you feel seen too, because you imbue some of your own characteristics or obviously thoughts into the characters?
The heroines in this series specifically, each hold a piece of a stage of my life. The third book, she's a single mom, and I'm not a single mom, but I am a mom. So there's a lot of those types of feelings in there. The heroine in book 2, she's amazing. She's such a badass, and she's fierce, and she's strong with, how she acts as a partner and as a friend. And that was also some of the best qualities that I think I had at a different time in my life. And I tried to keep those positive qualities. But I want my characters to be relatable. I want them to be, people that you see yourself as, but also people that you can, say like, oh, I wish she was my friend in real life, or I wish, I want to be her when I grow up. It's such a cool thing to see readers get excited about these characters. The hero in book 2, one of the readers he is forever her book boyfriend. And I mean, if that ever gets topped, I'll probably cry, because she is just so enthusiastic about him. And it's so much fun.
Victoria.
Yeah, so actually she reminded me at the last signing that I was at, was at the one in Dallas, Texas, the Southern Belle one. And I had a reader who I had never met before, but she kept telling me she was so excited to meet me. And I was like, I'm not cool. Like, I'm glad that you want to meet me, but I really hope I don't let you down. So anyway, she got there. We hugged, I signed her books, all of that. And then she told me, she didn't say that she was going through a dark time, but she said she was going through a really hard time. And the first 2 books of that Rockstar series kind of like pulled her out of her life and allowed her to escape during those, during the sessions when she was reading. And I just thought that it was a really lovely compliment that I could help her in a way. Because when you're writing and you're alone and you're by yourself and you're not thinking about the outside world, you don't think about the impact that your words could have on somebody else. So it was just nice to hear it.
Phoebe, what's the best compliment you've received?
Well, I've been doing this for so long, it's hard to kind of narrow it down to one, but I will say that I write a lot of plus size heroines, and I write a lot of women in their 30s and 40s and older. So I've had a lot of my readers in those same demographics tell me how much it meant to them to see women like them find love and to know that they deserve love, no matter what their age, no matter what their size, no matter what their shape. And just hearing how that impacted them, as well as sort of the sex positive nature of my books. I've had a lot of readers tell me that it helped them ask for what they wanted from their partners and help them forge, trying new things. And that, I think, is the biggest compliment to me, is when I've had that kind of impact on readers' personal lives like that.
Brianna, what's the best compliment you've received from a reader?
The best compliment is when that reader comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm exhausted. I stayed up too late reading. That alarm went off too early." It's the book hangover. And I know I used to get those with my favorite authors when I would crack open a book and it would be, 2, 3 in the morning and I'm reading, and then I have to get up at 5 the next morning. And it was one of the first compliments I got, and it's still one of my favorites.
What do you have coming up?
So next up, I've got the first book in a romantic suspense series. So that'll be coming out early August, probably, called Soldier for the Starling. So military romance, stalker, a little bit of the Rockstar element, but it's really pivoting a lot from where I was with contemporary into the romantic suspense world. Wow. Now, the stalker is not the romance protagonist, correct? No. Okay. I just wanted to be clear about that. Because when you said stalker, I was like, oh, wait, maybe, okay. Like reformed stalker or something. Oh, exciting. All right, Phoebe, what do you have coming out?
All right. So I had a few years where I was publishing 8 to 10 books a year. And I'm not doing that this year.
Wait, seriously?
I did that for like 3 years in a row. I published 8 to 10 books. And this year was different because I'm doing a lot of traveling and my son graduated from high school and all this stuff, life stuff, So I don't have a lot of releases planned. However, I do have a story coming out in the Color Theory 3 anthology in August that I just finished. And it's a polyamorous story with an interracial relationship, which all the stories in that anthology have interracial relationships.
Got it.
So that's coming out. And then I started writing the 5th book in my Spice Up Our Marriage series, which is all about married couples that are trying to spice up their marriage. I mean, I know it's a crazy name for it. But I was like 30,000 words into the 5th book of that when I sort of switched gears into some other stuff, but I am going to go back to that. And I am going to finish it. And it actually takes place at Spicetopia. It is a crossover book. Ooh. So it's in the Spice Up Our Marriage series, but the book takes place at Spicetopia because I just really like Spicetopia and I would just really like to go there if it actually existed. So yeah.
Victoria, what do you have coming up? And feel free to also share any non-romance that you have coming up, being you are a multi-genre author.
Okay, so my next release is dark mafia romance, Ruthless Vows. It is book 1 in a planned 5, maybe 6 books. I'm still kind of messing around with it. But I know we talked a little bit about tropes earlier, so I figured I would share those. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of tropes in this one. There's obviously mafia, arranged marriage, rival families, kind of like Romeo and Juliet vibes.
Okay.
Forbidden, wax play and temperature play, touch her and die, untouched heroin, and kidnapping. So pretty much everything that I think mafia lovers like kind of spun into one book. Yeah. So that is coming up. And then I also have a couple of anthologies. One of them's a charity anthology. That's Blue Collar Babes. That's in October.
Nice.
And then I have another October one that's called For the Villains. And I have some next year too, but we won't talk about that in this one. But those are the most pressing things.
The tropes you rattled off, a couple caught my attention. Did you say temperature play?
Yes.
Okay. So is that like, when I'm like, hey, it's really cold in here. Can you put on the heat? And my husband's like, no, because then our bill's going to go up. So why don't you just take a space heater? and it's like it's kind of like this sexual tension, but I also want to hurt him. So what is the temperature play exactly? I don't think I've heard that.
So temperature play, so in Ruthless Vows, it takes place, my main male character, his name is Dante. He is the owner of a sex club and also part of the mafia. And he is very experienced in all these different types of kinks. And one of them that she is going to start off with is temperature play. Okay. And they're going to start with hot wax. So that's basically, you lay on the table, you can kind of control the heat of the wax, where you're putting the wax. It's different than candle wax. This kind of wax does not like get hard right away. It kind of is like a massage oil almost. So you can massage it in. Truly temperature play.
Okay, so the wax play went together with the temperature play. When you mentioned it, I thought they were two separate things. So I was like, oh, so what is this temperature? And what was the other thing you mentioned? Oh, touch her and die.
Yeah.
So is that usually found in dark romances? Although I feel like there is a version of that in non-dark romance, which would be like, I guess, off limits, maybe would be
I would say
dark romance.
Just a little less vulgar, maybe.
Okay. Gotcha. Very interesting. Alexandra, so what do you have coming up?
I just released book 4 in the Clementine Creek series. It is Roommates to Lovers. He is the reformed playboy. She is a traveling photographer, and she's a free spirit, doesn't want to settle down. And it's just kind of that reverse, he's chasing after her, but she just completely gives him a run for his money. And it's a really fun story. I have a surprise novella coming out in July that has a mature couple in it. Was not something I intended to write, but it fits with like a Christmas in July sort of a theme.
Okay.
So playing off of that, really excited about them. Definitely some, slight daddy vibes on that, just because of his age. But it was really fun to write. And then the most anticipated book is the last book, which comes out in September. And he is the broody, tortured hero who doesn't, think that he deserves to settle down with the girl. And, he's very near and dear to my heart. Their story is going to be the heaviest one in the series, just because he's a veteran. So he has some other stuff, some stuff with him and his sister, coming to move with his grandparents. So there is some heavier themes in it, but overall it will remain light and, fun overall. But there's lots of hand necklaces in that one. Lots of dirty talk, and, he's a very dominant player. So it's gonna be a fun one.
Did you say necklaces? Did you say hand necklaces?
So the control of choking. So it's probably pretty light on the kink scale. But it's definitely something, it's control, it's, giving yourself, to your partner, trusting your partner, because, it is your throat. So there's a lot of that not balance per se, but that trust level, which is really important for him. So
gotcha.
It's a lot of fun.
And when you say mature couple, dare I ask what the age range is for mature couple?
She's in her 40s, late 40s, and he is in his 50s.
Okay.
So they are single parents of characters in the series.
Okay.
Their story is unique because they are dating in the other books, and there's no breakup in their book. It is him getting over his past issues, which are pretty extensive, but how they learn to love each other in, exploring different things. But it was a really interesting thing. I didn't intend to write that, but I'm glad that I did, because they deserve their happily ever after.
So now it is time for Would You Rather Romance Reader Edition. Would you rather read only second chance romance or friends to lover romance novels for 2 years?
Second chance. I would do second chance.
Yeah,
Second
second
chance.
chance.
All of you, second chance. You have a lot in common. Would you rather read a paranormal romance with a cinnamon bun gargoyle who rides motorcycles, or a grumpy gargoyle who bakes gourmet cinnamon buns for a living?
Grumpy.
Grumpy, for sure. Grumpy.
So
Yeah.
everyone here would rather read about a grumpy gargoyle who bakes gourmet cinnamon buns for a living.
Yes.
With his hands.
Even you, Brianna,
No, actually, I'd pick the other one. I'd pick that cinnamon roll gargoyle.
who rides the motorcycles. I thought someone might. Okay. Next one. Would you rather read a Regency romance filled with a plethora of oral pleasures, or a Victorian historical romance containing a 10-page long BDSM scene?
I would do the oral pleasures one.
Yeah, the Regency.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that because you are a fan of oral pleasures or of the Regency?
That's because I don't want to have, what did you say, 10?
A 10-page long BDSM scene, Victorian.
That's just a
England.
little too old or a little too long for me. I want it broken up.
That's too long. Okay.
That's long, but I think I'd still rather do the BDSM.
I don't really read anything in the Regency anything, but I would definitely do the Regency in that case.
Regency. Okay, gotcha. Would you rather read a forced proximity romance with an only one sleeping bag in the woods scene, or a trapped by a hurricane in a basement scene?
I've basically written both of those.
You've written a hurricane, basement, and it
wasn't a basement, but I did write where they're trapped on an island in a hurricane during a wedding. And I also wrote a forced proximity in Spicetopia on a ride where they're in a tent. So it's kind of like a forest. So anyway.
Well, you got to get out of my head, Phoebe, because you're apparently in my head. Which one would everyone prefer? The only one sleeping bag or trapped by the hurricane?
The sleeping bag.
A sleeping bag.
Sleeping bag. Where do you stand, Phoebe?
I don't know. I'm torn.
You got to pick one.
I'm gonna do the hurricane just because my wedding was during a hurricane, which is where I got the idea for the story, and it was pretty crazy. So
wow, you've lived many lives, Phoebe.
I have.
Would you rather take an 8-hour plane trip with a workplace rivals to lovers rom-com, or a fake dating with your best friend's sibling rom-com?
The first one.
So the first one is the workplace rivals to lovers rom-com. Who else?
I'm not a big fan of the fake dating thing.
Well, that's interesting. That's a reveal.
And I am getting ready to write one. My fifth book in the Spice Up Our Marriage series is sort of going to be a fake dating thing.
Well, you better start liking it then, if you're going to have to write it.
I like to challenge myself to write things I don't like sometimes.
Well, you know what? Maybe you can make a version of it, put a twist on it that nobody's ever seen that appeals to you. I'm hoping. That way it's fun for you to write. So anyone else? Workplace rivals to lovers, or fake dating best friend sibling?
I would do the fake dating.
Fake dating.
Fake dating, Brianna?
Yep, fake dating.
Fake dating. Okay. Last one. Would you rather read a romantic suspense novel that takes place entirely in an amusement park or at a farmer's market?
Amusement park, obviously.
Amusement park.
Yeah, amusement park.
Well, I thank all of you for being good sports and for sharing your time. Phoebe, Victoria, Alexandra, and Brianna, thank you for joining me here on Reader Seeks Romance. And I look forward to meeting all of you in person this November at HEA Reader Event.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.